Okay, I don't hate running, but I really don't enjoy running in the summer. It's so hot, it's so bright, I'm sweating all the time, it's gross. How can we deal with that? I ask our guest, Jonathan Levitt, who's a run coach and community organizer based out of Colorado, to talk about how he best deals with hot runs. One secret: go to the sauna at least 3 times a week. How does that make sense? I promise it does. Let's listen up right now. Jonathan, welcome to the Process Podcast. How are you doing today?
I am doing well, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, and let's act like I didn't ask you this question like 5 minutes ago. What have you been up to today, and how's your day going?
What have I been up to today? So it's 8 a.m. your time, 6 p.m. my time.
Awesome.
And I woke up nice and early. I went for a 5 mile run. I was planning on doing a 12-mile trail run, but it was a little smoky here. So I kept it
Right.
local and shorter and easier. Then I had a bunch of meetings and here we are.
Okay, great. And thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast today. For our listeners and for the purpose of what you're here for, can you tell us about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I think we're talking running here. So I'll start with the running side of things. I've been running since 2013. I really got into it after the Boston Marathon bombing. I'm envious of your coffee. It's 6 o'clock here, so I would love to be drinking.
Yeah, it is. It is a cold brew.
Now you're bragging. I got into running after the Boston Marathon bombing, like many people in Boston did at the time, and it really evangelized quite a lot of people who had hometown pride,
Mm,
but didn't yet run. And so I got into running. I got into running community back in 2013 when run clubs were quite novel. Fast forward 12 years, and I've run a bunch of marathons. I'm training for a 40-mile race here in about 4 weeks. Done some ultras, and yeah, my entire career is involved in the space as well. I was at a brand called Inside Tracker for 10 and a
mm,
half years, personalized nutrition. We started in 2013. I joined in 2014. Really evangelized that movement as well, and brought people into the concept of thinking about your health in a personalized approach versus one size fits all. We're all different people. We all absorb nutrition differently.
mm,
Demographics have different inputs and variables, and we should reflect how we eat and what we eat and how we train based on what makes us unique, and more importantly, what about our uniqueness influences how we feel.
mm,
Um, so I recently quit that job 2 months ago, and I'm all in on hosting a couple of podcasts. I host a podcast called For the Long Run, all about exploring the why and the mental side of performance. And then Long Run Labs, which is a podcast at the intersection of endurance and entrepreneurship, telling stories of people building in the outdoor industry. Working for another brand called Eternal now. They call it, the healthcare for athletes. So you go through a in-person assessment, some blood work, VO2 max, all of the physical assessments that I'm sure you're familiar with, and movement screens, and understanding from a physiological and physical level, what does this athlete look
mm.
like from the inside, and what imbalances do they have, and how can they improve. um, and there are a couple other things I do, but that mostly keeps me busy.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're busy wearing a lot of hats, right? Like I hear a lot of coaching, a lot of guidance, a lot of community organizing, and everything like that. If like you had one main hat in the running space, which one would you like wear most proudly?
Value creation more broadly. I want to help
Mm,
people, whether that's understanding mentally how to get through hard things, whether it's physically, why am I tired? Help me understand that, or whether it's building a business and helping with a go to market strategy for a early stage tech company. Like, to me, it's all about the hat of value creation, and everything
mm.
else, you can interchange the For the Long Run hat, the Long Run Labs hat, the advisor hat, the um, sales lead hat, like all that stuff. It sits under that same bucket.
Got it. And then, I mean, now running is not just part of your career. I mean, it's always been your passion, it sounds like. Can you tell us a little bit how you got into running? Like, go as far back as you want since you were a kid or college or whatever, how you got into it and how, what makes you passionate about it?
I hated running growing up. I played baseball and hockey, and it was always the punishment. And
Sure.
yeah, 2013, I guess 2012, after I graduated college, I started running, 2, 3 miles a day, um, 2 or 3 times a week. So I was running, I don't know, between 5 and 10 miles a week. Are you in miles or kilometers over there?
So we are traditionally in kilometers, but my best friend, who's also my marathon coach, he had me start my marathon training program 2 weeks ago, and he's like, "Chris, like, I don't know what you do when you're doing kilometers, um, paces, so you need to switch back to miles," which has been a little bit rough for me. But for the purpose of our conversation, I can do miles now.
Got it. So, wasn't running a lot of miles or kilometers. I was running more kilometers than miles. So maybe I should have been thinking about it in kilometers back then. But anyway, then the Boston Marathon comes around, and yeah, I was inspired to run on the course. So I drove out to Newton, which is the halfway point, and I
Mm,
ran into Boston. And then there was a guy with a giant machine gun that said, "Hey, you can't
right,
be here," because there was an active SWAT investigation
right.
due to the terror attack that occurred. So I turned around, I ran back, and that was my first half marathon. That was my first stress fracture. And once I recovered from that, I got a little more serious about the sport and found a community in Boston called November Project.
Mm,
And yeah, it really snowballed from there. I fell off the deep end, and I had signed up for a marathon in the following year. And then I ran another one the next year, and then I don't know, I've run 10 or so since then. And really just fell in love with the art of, or the process of doing a thing, right? When you dedicate yourself to something, you get better, and you get better
mhm,
at doing the thing, but you also get better at the process of doing the thing. And so for me, that's what I've enjoyed a lot over the years. It's been like h- honing the craft of the process versus like the act of running, right? We all get injured. That's something that's going to happen.
right.
And it's more about, the line I like to use lately is, it's not about avoiding the waves, it's about learning to surf.
Mm,
And so we have to ride waves at some point. We can't turtle and avoid hard things. And that's a lesson, and a thing that is valid for life beyond running.
right. I think that's an awesome analogy because coming from California, my friends and I would be like bodyboarding and stuff, and right, like if you go into it with a lot of fear, all you're doing is duck diving, which is just taking a deep breath, going down deep, swimming as hard as you can, and then popping up. And if you do that for an hour, like it's exhausting. If you just go for the wave and ride it, whatever that wave is, you end up breathing a lot better and coming out of it with a better experience. So that's a really cool analogy that I heard from you.
I had a feeling that the California roots would hit with that.
Yeah. With running too, it's get me into your mindset a little bit because I'm training for my first marathon. And right now I'll do like 60, 90-minute runs and I have to listen to an audiobook or a podcast or something like that. In your case, you're running long miles, either, whether it's a race or a training run, you're just out there, either on the road or in nature. What for you keeps you motivated to continuously do these marathons and even pushing to the ultra distances?
So, first question back to you. Why did you sign up for the marathon?
Because I guess similar to you, I hated running. It was more punishment for me when I was, in high school. I was wrestling. So we just run as punishment, either running around the track or running, suicide sprints on the mats. And then I got into triathlons because I was a swimmer. And I thought it was cool, but it was cool if I mixed it with other stuff. Like running by itself just wasn't appealing to me. And then I just got into CrossFit because then I got into weight training because of triathlon. And then I figured I'd rather spend an hour in the gym pushing weights rather than 2 hours on the road cycling or running, and that was boring. So I always like wrote off running as just this boring, meandering task. And then I just kind of got around to it where anytime I'm running, I do feel more fit, cardiovascular and everything. I grew up with asthma. So doing more running training and, long stints of heavy breathing, labored breathing, and trying to regulate my heart rate, that became more appealing. And then at some point this year, I guess either, I got bit by the bug of running and run clubs and all that stuff. Um, I just figured if I can do it, let's give it a try and see if this is something I'm interested in. And I don't know, like I'll have until December to train for my first marathon, and we'll see how it goes. And it's a really cool thing to connect with my community. Like I said, my coach is my best friend. We've known each other since we were 5, and it's a cool way to reconnect, and see how things going. So, you know, I guess there's a lot of different small reasons to the big reason of this is why I'm doing it.
So what I heard there is you're curious, and
Yeah.
I think that the ability to know your why and to have curiosity be a part of your why
Mhm.
is a really compelling storyline or reason to do it or motivator. And
Mhm.
so for me, it's like I know why I'm out there. I know that every little, and I'm saying this to myself to remind myself of it sometimes too. Like I'm gonna go for a 90, 100, 120-minute trail run tomorrow on a random Thursday.
Mhm.
That's a lot of time on a morning before I have a bunch of meetings. And I need to know, like, I need to know why I'm doing that. I'm not doing it, for my health. If I were doing it for my health, I would run 30 minutes every day.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
doing it because I want to be able to do. I have curiosity around the ultra distance. I have curiosity
Mhm.
around like what. Well, I have a desire to run this race that I'm doing in like 4 weeks. It's through some of the most beautiful mountains of Colorado, some high alpine, like I guess almost 4,000 meters. Yeah, we'll touch 4,000 meters. And it's just beautiful up there. That conversion is 12,000 feet. Um, and so for me, the why is important because it's also around curiosity and it's also around the desire to see what I'm capable of and like where it can take me. And again, it gets back to like I like building shit. I like building
Mhm.
fitness. I like building companies. I like building a business. And the act of doing one of those things makes the act of doing the other things, I don't want to say easier, but more straightforward or more manageable or tolerable or um, you get better at doing the little things or riding those waves along the way.
Got it. Um, I mean, one thing that resonates with that is, with marathon training or, long distance training or strength training, it is kind of those brick by brick processes where it's just like you're not gonna come in and out of the gym in 90 minutes and be like a rock star, right? It just takes a while and it's uncomfortable and it takes patience, but it also takes consistency. And it takes hard sessions. And right now we're in the middle of that. The reason why I signed up for a race in December is because I do not want to be outside running for 3, 4 hours in the middle of the summer. And that's basically what we're getting into right now is like in part of doing the hard things and building up is how do you train when the weather doesn't allow for you to train well. So we're talking about the heat, the humidity, and like the sweat rate of being out there in the summer. I mean, that's the one thing that is like really challenging me right now of like sometimes I just look out there and go, yeah, we're gonna be on a treadmill all day because I just don't want to be out there. So for you, like right now, what is your summer running conditions like? I know we're in August, but still, it's pretty hot out there.
Yeah, so it was 98 degrees today,
Mm,
which is warm. When I ran,
yeah.
it was 75. But when I ran yesterday, it was 59. But when I run tomorrow, it'll be 75 again. Um, and I'm frequently running in like a couple weeks ago, it was 85 at the start of the run, and it would be 90
Mm,
at the finish. I'm lucky because I
jeez.
sauna 3 times a week or so,
Mm,
not in the summer usually. And so for me, the heat is a little bit more tolerable because I have that year-round heat training that I'm doing.
Mm.
For people that don't have access to a sauna, you can do a hot bath for 20 minutes a couple of times a week, and that has an
Okay.
impact. You can um, that kind of stuff is quite impactful. Or if you have access to a hot tub,
Mm.
20 minutes. Basically, what that's doing is it's it's a passive way to get better at cooling yourself. And
Mm.
so when you stress your body, you get better at dealing with the stress effectively. Um, the heat exposure is fantastic for performance, but also a lot of there are a lot of health benefits that are kind of side effects, nice side effects when you're doing that 3 times a week. So if you do have access to a sauna, the minimum or the what's been researched is around 175 degrees or Fahrenheit or about 80 degrees Celsius
Mhm.
for 20-ish minutes 3 times a week, and it's a dose um, response, and the more you do it, the better it is for you from a health outcome standpoint.
Okay.
Up to nearly daily, there does end up being a negative impact because it is a stress.
Mm.
Um, if you're doing it, 5 times a week in addition to a high volume of training. But I've found that the sweet spot is like 2 or 3 times a week, particularly on a rest day, because it helps with blood plasma volume on a day that you're not moving. And then I try not to do it on a long run day or the day before a long run day or the day before a workout day.
Mm.
But I'd like to stack the stresses. So if I have done a workout, maybe in the evening I'll do sauna. Um,
So the idea of going, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. I was gonna switch to a different topic.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering. So the first thing is, as much as if I'm already out there going for a hot run, because that's already a stress, right? The run itself, and then you have to manage the heat. Those are like two things that my body has to regulate. If I kind of compartmentalize of if it's the heat that I'm not used to, adapt to it by going to a sauna where it's a controlled environment where I'm just sitting and just regulate my breathing, do some box breathing, meditative exercises. That way, I have a better ability to downregulate out of that parasympathetic state so I can kind of calm down and be okay with being in a hot environment. Essentially, it's that simple.
3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks of that should have an impact. So you do it 6 to 9 times over that 2 to 3 week period. And it should be good enough. Some people don't have the time to do it. They don't have the
Yeah.
the access to do it, so it's not an option for everyone. The other places that I would look at finding improvement is making sure you're hydrated,
Mhm.
understanding both sweat rate and sodium content. So if you have access to like a sweat test, or even just if you notice when you finish your run, if you're like extra salty,
Mhm.
maybe you need a little bit more on the electrolyte front.
Okay.
I've had a sweat test and I'm at like 1400, whatever the unit is, per liter, and I sweat about a liter an hour. So I should be taking in at least a gram of, if not more, of
Mhm.
sodium per hour that I'm sweating. Because I sauna, I sweat early and a lot because
Mhm.
that's the cooling mechanism that it's
Right.
it's helping to enhance or spur. So when I started playing around with sodium and water intake, it's effectively another cooling mechanism. The other thing that you can do is there are different spots in your body that if you cool those spots, your forehead, back of your neck, your palms, these are all areas that if you're able to cool them, it has a regulatory impact on your overall system. And so you
Mhm.
can use an ice bandana. There's this new product that a bunch of triathletes use called Omius, and it has like crystals on it. You need to wet it every 15 minutes, but it seems to be popular. And Eliud
You just
Kipchoge
get
was
it
using.
wet and it'll actually go cold.
Yeah, it cools your forehead and your temple. Um, and yeah, it's like a $200 device. You can buy it on the feed or from the company Omius, Omius. I got a sample of it recently. I haven't used it yet,
Mhm.
but that's another option, like a high tech option. But yeah, it's about staying cool. It's about wearing performance wear, lighter colors,
Mhm.
things that enable you to sweat. I don't think that bare skin is the best move unless you're like,
Mhm. Okay.
I mean, in a humid environment, just like having the sweat on you can cool you versus like being baked by the sun if you're shirtless or whatever. I feel like that is you will get warmer from that. So
Well,
you
I
want to
mean,
have
okay, yeah. So like so guilty, right? Because as a CrossFitter, it's like one of the
taking the
things we
shirt
do. It's
off.
like
Yeah.
halfway through the like a 30-minute M rap that it's like it's your booster system, right? And then we're just yeah, we're just used to taking our shirts off, and like I'll go shirtless for a lot of runs just because it's like I sweat so much that I'm just like a walking puddle. But it actually can be helpful, especially if you have the type of fabrics that stay lights and don't kind of like get really heavy like a cotton shirt. So something like a tech fabric that keeping that on actually would help cool you and regulate your temperature.
A company I like is Goreware. They make really high performance apparel both for heat and cold, and
Mm,
rain and snow. But I've raced in even their black apparel. It would be better if it were lighter, but I happen to have a lot of their black apparel, and
yeah.
I've run races in the desert in it. I just raced in Aspen up in high altitude where the sun is much stronger, and it's fantastic. It's extremely lightweight, and it works super well. So the tech and the apparel component is great. You can also think about like sun sleeves that are
Mm,
SPF 30 that keep the sun out and keep the sun off as well. But really,
mhm,
it's the pre cooling, the cooling, and the hydration and electrolyte component that if you have this right, it, you can so it's no matter what, the heat is going to make you slower, right? The
yeah.
optimal conditions are much cooler than what you're dealing with. So the
Right.
first piece is really just like change your perspective on what you think you can do in the heat and the humidity compared to the winter. And
Mhm,
from there, then it's the pre-cooling, the cooling, the sodium, the hydration, carrying water, making sure you have access to water, making sure you're drinking, a half a liter to a liter an hour.
mhm.
Many people drink much more, and then replenishing those electrolytes post run as well, so you can do it again tomorrow.
So I have like two questions, one on the technical side, one more kind of like a deeper question. Is number one is I went to the US in late June, and one of the first things I did was I helped my friend here in Hong Kong get a pack of electrolytes that we don't have here. It's the Elements, and she said I need this because it has 1,000 milligrams of sodium per packet, whereas something like a liquid IV has only 300, and then other ones have 600. And we're looking at those, those amounts. Um, I think what you're saying is it's not necessarily more sodium is better. It's see what's appropriate for your sweat rate and the actual amount of salt that you lose. So kind of on that note, you don't need to be chasing high salt numbers or the saltiest drink. It's just think about what actually is appropriate for you as an individual.
Yeah, and if you're running in heat and humidity for more than 45 minutes, you should consider salt and potentially even carbohydrate
Mm,
in there as well. There, again, I don't know what you have access to there, but here I like Scratch Labs, Tailwind,
mm,
Precision Fuel and Hydration. I think they're available internationally. There's so many options that even if it's like 20 to 50 grams of carbs an hour on a 75-minute run or less, that's going to help you feel better. In addition to the cooling and
okay.
just the ability, right? Like there's so many different variables that lead to you feeling bad on a run, and there are things you can control, like intake, and there are things you can't
Mhm,
control, like weather.
right.
So lately, I've been running like 100K a week, just under 100K a week of mileage, and that's 60 miles. And so the previously I wouldn't fuel runs that are 75 to 90 minutes long, but now I'm taking 40 to 50 grams of carbs on an easy, you know, 8 to 10 mile run. Um, so eight, yeah, and so like 12 to 15K. So we're doing both. Um,
I appreciate, by the way, you going always from metric to statute back and forth for me. Really appreciate it.
so doing things like that makes you feel better, both in the
Right.
run and in the next run. And so it's not specifically related to heat, but if you're starting from negative when it's hot out, you're gonna feel like crap. So you should do
Mhm.
everything you possibly can to feel as good as you possibly can.
Mhm.
Um, and the fueling component plays a factor in that too. Once you go above an hour or 75 minutes or so, and if you're running on a regular routine.
Got it. And then I guess the ultimate question would be, as part of training and the idea of adapting to difficult situations, to what extent should you kind of grit and bear it, even if it's like you have to go slower because you need to keep your heart rate down, versus when is it time to just call it and be like, all right, let's stop, let's get back home and just call it a day?
Yeah, I think most people like your brain will want you to quit before you need to quit, but there's no
Mhm.
use in being a hero.
Mhm.
And but at the same time, you can probably tolerate a bit more than what you think or what
Mhm.
you want, right? There's no reason to intentionally suffer every day in a training run. You don't need to like if it happens once, fine. If it happens twice, all right. But if it's like 2 or 3
Habitual.
times a week, yeah,
Yeah.
if it's a habitual thing, then you should reevaluate, like, are you going too far? Are you going too fast? Are you not fueling enough? Are you not hydrating enough? And then start to ask questions like that. But if it's just once, like, don't beat yourself up over it. But if it ends up being more often than not or more regular than, once a month, then that's something you wanna explore a little bit further.
Are there any key indicators during a run where it's like it goes from tough to, oh, I really should consider tapping out?
Yeah, so one of the companies I'm an advisor for is called Goes Health. It's basically a outdoor wilderness medicine triage app, and
Mhm.
so you can tell it your problems, like tap on the body part and tell it the problems you're having, and it tells you
I see.
the risk factor and what to do about it. And so a couple weeks ago, I was having this experience where I was like, "Am I having a problem that I should do something about, or should I
Right.
just suck it up and keep moving?" So I opened the app and I told it my symptoms, which was nausea, headache, and I was at altitude and it was hot out. And it told me that I was likely overhydrated and potentially um, I'd overdone salt. There was
Mhm.
something off from the electrolyte balance, and so it told me to stop drinking both water and electrolytes, which I thought was counterintuitive.
Mhm.
Um, but I I listened to it, and an hour later I was feeling much better. And
Ah,
so it didn't say that it was a huge problem, but it said it was a
yeah.
problem,
Yeah.
and here's how to fix it. And so for me, I was feeling bad enough that I like needed the validation like this is not just like a normal I feel
Yeah.
like shit, keep it moving. And so for me it's like if there's a headache involved, if there's like very odd fatigue, I had like weird lung my it was my breathing was off. And if there's any confusion or stumbling, this is often like more common on longer trail runs, but like
Mm.
this happens in road running all the time because you're running on pavement and pavement reflects heat more than a
Right.
dirt trail. And so it's like any of those out of the ordinary feelings that you like wouldn't expect to feel on a run, that's when download this app and make sure you have it, but or like explore it in that moment or just really back off and take it easy if there's nausea, headaches. If you stop sweating, this is a problem as well
Mm.
because your body is no longer able to cool you,
Yeah.
and then you will overheat and get some sort of heat. You could get some sort of heat related illness, which we don't want.
That app sounds really interesting. What's the name of the app again?
Goes Health,
Mhm.
Goes Health app, GOES.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever had the problem of not sweating. I'll be on the lookout for that. But it just sounds like if there's anything out of the ordinary where it's like the first thought is like, is this normal? That's where at least you need to do some type of like quick internal systems check as you're going through your run of, is this kind of worth it?
Exactly. Also, disclaimer: this is not medical advice.
Point taken. Point taken. No, we're just having a conversation, man.
Team, I want to quickly interrupt this episode to give a little shout out to our sponsors today, Well Spent. This little journal has made such a massive, profound impact on my life since I started using it. When I started using it, I actually didn't know that it was backed by neuroscience, but now it totally makes sense. This has brought a ton of gratitude to my life. It keeps me on track and focused on the things I need to do day to day and brings a lot of context as to how each day fits within the greater week and the greater month. So if you, like me, really care about trying to be a high performer and want to do everything you can to make that happen, I cannot recommend this journal enough. Use our discount code, THEPROCESS, to grab yours today.
And with regards to everything else, there's also the option of running on a treadmill. And just like, without getting too much into it, what kind of carryover do you see in doing a treadmill session with regards to the rest of your training, I guess, schedule?
Treadmills are great. They get a lot of hate on the internet. I hate treadmills. I use it when necessary, but I try and avoid it as much as possible because I just don't enjoy it. I think it's
Yeah,
harder. I think
same.
the way that you get through a treadmill session is to break it up in intervals. I did a 16-mile long run where it was 10 by 1 mile reps with like 2-minute rest or something like
Mm,
that, 2-minute recovery. And that broke it up well. I was only ever running a mile at a time. But 2.25 hours later, I was pretty stoked to be done after that.
sure. Yeah,
Um,
I would too.
for me, it's lightning, um, very, very cold temperature or smoke that gets me onto a treadmill. I'm
Okay.
spoiled here in Colorado. It doesn't rain very much. I know
Mm,
sometimes people go to treadmills when it rains. I got into running in Boston, and if you didn't run in the rain, you'd miss half of your runs. So
I
I,
see.
I got used to running in the rain.
Yeah,
And running in the rain is good for you. And if you do races, it might rain on race day, and they're not canceling races
sure.
for the rain, so you should run in the rain. But use lubricant.
Got it. Okay, so basically, you know, only when absolutely necessary, right? It's like a force majeure.
That's my use case. But
Yeah, yeah.
but
I mean, I had that the other day where I was doing like 200-meter repeats, and like I was just had my eyes were fixed on the building in front of me. And usually when you're running, like you do those little landmarks in your head of like the thing out in the distance that's really small gets bigger. So then you feel accomplished. It's just the thing is like the exit sign that I'm looking at across the way is just not getting any bigger at all. So I'm like, yeah, I'm a hamster in a wheel here. So yeah, it is a different type of resiliency, and I'd love to be outside, but sometimes you just got to call it. As we're wrapping up here, I just want to do a quick check of like, what do we have going on here for you, Jonathan, coming up in your professional or in your running life or life that you have coming up?
Yeah, I'm doing this 40-mile race called the Grand Traverse at the end of August. I am doing Boulderthon. I sit on the board of Boulderthon and work with them as a podcast partner as well. It's
Nice.
a race here in Boulder, about 15,000 runners with a half marathon, full marathon, 5K, 10K, kids race. So that's super fun. And yeah, just love this time of year when here in Colorado we can get up into the big mountains before it snows here in the next, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks.
Right on. And for yourself, do you have any goals that you have in mind for this race, like time wise or just whatever?
I want to have a lot of fun. I have no idea what the time will be. It'll be somewhere around, I don't know, 7 to 9 hours, eight,
Oh,
6 to 7 or 8 hours, I'd imagine. If it's much longer than that, I'm gonna miss the bus back to the start or back to where
oh
my
man.
Airbnb is. So I better make it. But yeah, no time goals. Really have no clue context for that because I've never done anything like it. and just looking to have a lot of fun
Awesome.
and suffer a little bit, ride some waves.
There it is. And then, okay, then one question that I always want to know, what is a must listen song for a long, slow run?
Hell of a View by Eric Church.
And then for a short, fast run?
Miles on It by, I forget who, it's another country song.
Right on. Well, I mean, I'd love to listen to your country playlist.
There we go.
Before we say goodbye, here's one crazy statistic for you. Did you know that almost 40% of people who listen to the show don't actually subscribe to it? Now, I didn't think that was a big deal until I actually learned about the power of hitting subscribe. For you, the listener, you get to stay up to date when we drop episodes on a weekly basis. But for us as a podcast, it really helps our visibility and helps us attract great brands and great listeners to help grow this podcast. So if you enjoyed this episode or you're a big fan of the show, please do us a massive favor and hit subscribe. Thank you so much.